Hello everyone, this is Nitpicking Nerd, and today I want to review a movie which I stumbled upon by accident and ended up watching it all the way through. And it's not an amazing movie, it's just kind of okay. It had some interesting setup, which I kind of imagined as I was watching it. I imagined what kind of twist the movie will have. And I had kind of a theory about how it will end, which didn't end up being true. And I think it's too bad because that would have made the movie much more interesting and much better, and that's the main reason I want to do this review, because I want to offer my own theory about how the movie should have ended. But before I talk about that, I want to quickly summarize and review the movie. I also want to mention the benefit of watching a movie not knowing what it's about, what's going to be in it, because it kind of makes it all more mysterious, because you don't know exactly what's going to happen, and so that makes it more enjoyable as well. So please be warned that I'm going to spoil the whole movie in this review, even though it didn't end up having surprises, unfortunately, and the IMDb page basically summarizes the main plot element. But when I watched it, I didn't know anything at all about it. I didn't see the trailer, I didn't read about it on IMDb, and so I had no idea where all of this is going, and it did kind of make the movie much better than it would be otherwise. It was kind of refreshing because, today they keep spoiling every movie in all the trailers and everything about the movie. You know everything already. It makes it all very predictable, so it's always fun to watch a movie not knowing anything at all when going into it. So be warned that I'm going to spoil the whole movie. The movie stars that guy from the X-Files, and honestly I don't think he was very good in this movie. There were all kinds of scenes in which he would have been emotional, and yet you couldn't really see it on his face, and so he actually didn't do that good of a job. The actress who played the daughter was pretty good, and it's a good thing, otherwise it wouldn't have worked at all. That's the only thing that kind of made it semi-plausible and allows you to get into the setup of the movie, which is kind of a fantasy. And the setup is that the daughter and her mother were in a car accident together, and they both died. And the doctors managed to save the body of the daughter, and when she woke up, it turns out the mind of her mother was in the body of the daughter. Which is the same kind of setup which was used in a lot of comedy movies. Usually it's used for comedy, because it's kind of a silly idea. In some science fiction series, that idea was also used, also often for comedy. So it's kind of an old idea, but surprisingly in this movie it was totally serious. The movie was totally serious all the way through. It did have some comedic moments, a few comedic scenes, maybe some of them unintentional comedy. Because of some bizarre situations I kind of found it funny, but I'm not sure how intentional it was. But for the most part the movie was totally serious, taking this setup totally seriously. And usually I don't like fantasy movies, movies about ghosts and stuff like that, because I don't believe in any of that stuff, and so I can't take it seriously. So for me it works better as a comedy. That way I can kind of shut off my brain and just roll with it and just enjoy the jokes. If it's done in a science fiction setup, I can more easily accept it, because I can imagine, okay, maybe one day in the future, or with some advanced alien technology, maybe it will allow to copy the mind of someone into someone else or stuff like that. So I could more easily accept such a setup with a science fiction story to explain it. If it's just kind of by accident, just kind of a fantasy story, then I can't really take it that seriously. So it's not the kind of movie I would usually choose to watch, but because I was watching anyway, so I just kept watching. And it did have some interesting elements, a few funny moments as I mentioned, especially that whole element of the mother who is now in her daughter's body, discovering the truth about what her daughter was up to, what she was doing with her friends and all that kind of stuff, and she was kind of being shocked by it all the time. So I did find a lot of those situations kind of funny or interesting. And the movie also had that creepy element which kept growing, which was about the mother inside her daughter's body still loving the husband, who is the father of that daughter, and she still wants him, and she now has the hormones of the teenager, and so kind of gradually she starts getting closer to him and kind of trying to tempt him, and so that started kind of sliding into the direction of incest and that kind of stuff, and the husband kept kind of not going there and avoiding that. And that was kind of interestingly bizarre and funny, because I kept thinking, what the hell is that mother thinking? She knows she's in the body of her own daughter, she knows that would be incest, and yet she keeps trying to do that anyway, so what the hell is going on? It kind of reminded me of an episode of Star Trek TNG in which part of the crew became kids, and then Keiko O'Brien became like a teenager, and she came back home to her husband Miles O'Brien, and started kind of hugging him and stuff, and you could see that he's not comfortable with that, and tries to keep his distance, and then she gets angry, And you're like thinking like, what the hell does she expect? Like, she's a little child, he's an adult man, so what the hell are you thinking? So there was a kind of a similar idea in this movie in which the mother in her daughter's body keeps kind of trying to seduce her husband, who is also her father. Maybe this movie should have established from the beginning that he's not her biological father, then it would make it all less creepy and maybe more of an option, meaning maybe the father will be more tempted to actually do that if she wasn't his biological daughter, but the movie never said that, so apparently she is actually his daughter, and yet the wife in her body keeps trying to seduce him. She keeps telling him that she has a body of a young woman and so on, and she keeps trying to seduce him. And that's when the idea kind of popped in my head, and that maybe there will be a surprise twist in the end of the movie, that maybe it was actually the daughter all along. Maybe she kind of faked the whole thing about the mother's spirit being inside her. Maybe she's just crazy and wants her own father, or maybe she was actually so traumatized by that accident and losing her mother that she actually believes what she says, or maybe she kind of developed a split personality. So in either way, it would be interesting if she's basically just crazy and there is no supernatural element at all, and it would have been surprising, and it would have made the whole movie much more interesting and added rewatchability to the movie. And I actually thought there were clues setting up that kind of twist, which didn't end up happening. The end of the movie was basically that the daughter's spirit basically returned to her body, and the mother's spirit passed on to the afterlife, I guess, and everything returned to normal. And that was kind of a weak ending. No real ending to the story, just kind of faded away and returned back to normal. So I felt the ending was very weak, and I think the idea I suggested would have made it much more interesting, and there were a bunch of clues which I thought were leading up to it. Such as from the very beginning of the movie you could see that the daughter actually loves her father but hates only her mother. She's been kind of a problem child, but only toward her mother. And then after the accident, when she first started saying that she's actually the mother, no one believed her, and the doctors kept saying it's all because of the trauma of the accident and losing her mother. It's kind of a psychological condition which will go away. Then the father does start to believe her after she tells him about certain things that only the wife could have known, such as the stuff he tells her when they sleep together, and all kinds of stuff that happened when she wasn't home. So he does end up believing her, and then they keep the whole thing a secret, and the mother pretends to live the life of the daughter. And also they had kind of a subplot about the mother having all kinds of filming equipment. She was her hobby was to film stuff. And so I kind of thought to myself, maybe the daughter knew the stuff she's not supposed to know because maybe she hid a hidden camera somewhere in the room when she wasn't home. Maybe that's how she knew exactly what happened, and it will all be revealed in the end. Also, when they started revealing the life of the daughter, when the mother was in her daughter's body, and she started discovering what her daughter was actually into, and they revealed that her daughter was kind of into all kinds of kinky relationships, and she had all kinds of fetishes. She had an aggressive boyfriend who basically rapes her, and he tattooed his name on her behind, and she was using drugs, and she was having multiple relationships. And so I thought they're setting her up as being kind of very kinky, with a lot of strange stuff about her. And so I thought maybe it's all a clue to the final reveal, that it will be revealed that she actually wanted her father, and so she made up that whole act to pretend to be his wife in order to basically sleep with him. And maybe after that happens, she'll reveal the truth to him, and then they'll show us all the flashbacks of all the clues and so on, and explain how it all happened, how she managed to fool him and so on. But as I said, it never actually happened, and so I'm wondering, so what was the point of all those little kind of clues which didn't really go anywhere, like all those small subplots of the filming hobby. So I kind of think it's a missed opportunity. It would have made the movie much more interesting if they did have a twist ending. It would have added rewatchability. It would have made the movie much more psychological, because it would have revealed that the doctor actually has some major psychological issues, and that's always interesting. Also, the kind of manipulation of another person, how easy it is to manipulate someone into believing crazy stuff. That would have made it interesting, basically, if the father character would have said, oh, I was so stupid, I believed in such nonsense so easily, maybe because I was desperate. So that would have been an interesting angle as well. Of course, it would have made the movie much more kind of nasty, but maybe they should have set it up from the beginning that she's not his biological daughter. Then it would lessen the impact, the nastiness of the whole incest problem. And they didn't have to go into it fully, like maybe it would simply be revealed in the end that that's what she was trying to do. Or maybe she really believed that, maybe she was in some sort of hallucination because of the accident, the head injury, or just because she's crazy, and then she would be institutionalized in the end or something like that, that would have definitely made the whole movie much more interesting and also more realistic, because you would remove the whole fantastical element and reveal that it was actually all purely scientific, psychological, without any spiritual elements and all of that. So I think that would have greatly improved the movie. But of course it would have also made it much more disgusting, but at least it would be more memorable and surprising and interesting. So the movie as it is just had a weak ending, so the daughter's soul basically returned to her own body and the mother went away, and that's it. So everything became normal and nothing really big happened, and the only kind of amusing scenes were all those parts in which the mother in the body of her daughter kept being creeped out and surprised and shocked by all the crazy stuff that her daughter and the guys her age were doing, and also she ended up kind of enjoying all that stuff and doing it herself. So that was kind of ironic and interesting. But other than that, I would say this is just kind of an average movie, not a very interesting ending, just kind of an okay movie for one-time viewing. And as I said, this kind of idea was done so many times, mostly for comedy movies, which I think fits better this kind of crazy idea, to kind of play with it in a comedic way, while this movie tried to do it seriously for the most part. And I think it could have been done much, much better. So that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think in the comments below and we can discuss it. And I will see you all next time. Bye bye.